the main news is the Indo-Pak tensions, where your lot have been starting a fight with my lot, and it's causing a lot of consternation across the world. So we're going to talk about that.
In the short term, obviously, Pakistan's more vulnerable. The stock market tanked yesterday down like 6,000 points because of the fact that capital is much more likely to flight in Pakistan. The currency is at a risk in such situations. So there's a lot of fragility in the Pakistani economy. That's not the case in the short term on the Indian side. The Indian side has been more robust. If even if we sort of look at past incidents, for example, their skirmish with China in 2000 or the 2019 Pulwama slash Balakot strikes, the Indian stock market barely sort of like went down and went up, which kind of shows that the global investors just don't view such conflicts as very contained. They're not pricing in the fact that this is going to be a long-term conflict. Hence, it does not affect India's long-term growth story.
Assalamu alaikum, everyone. I'm Ibrahim Khan, co-founder of IFG and Curate Capital.
Assalamu everyone. I'm Mohsin, also co-founder of IFG and Curate Capital, and welcome to today's live stream. Ibrahim, what are we doing today?
We are going to be talking about a lot of things. The main news is the Indo-Pak tensions, where your lot have been starting a fight with my lot, and it's causing a lot of consternation across the world. So we're going to talk about that with our resident Pakistan expert, none other than Mr. Uzair Ali, that is being imported over from Pakistan to give his expert advice. We are also going to be talking about the Bank of England rate cuts and what that means for your and my bottom dollar. And then we're also going to be talking about some pretty interesting news that I think has gone under the radar that's going to affect everyone who is using an Apple phone. And then finally, we're going to talk about Disney and its decision to open up a theme park in your backyard, Mr. Patel. So we're going to come to you as well to talk about that. But first, breaking news right now, we've got the USA and the UK are set to announce a major trade deal where they're going to be dealing with tariffs. And this is something that is literally going to be announced in the next few hours. So we are speculating because we're filming hours before this has actually gone live. And from the looks of it, the expectation is that it's not like a complete free trade agreement like India and the USA or the India and UK announced recently. This is a bit more of a contained thing to do with tariffs. And I think top of the agenda are probably likely to be things like steel, cars, and then possibly the UK Digital Services Act, which is this tax that the UK has imposed upon large US tech firms mainly who are selling into the UK. Mohsin, what are you making of all this?
I am looking at this and I'm seeing quite a lot of nothing. I don't know what your thoughts are on it, but I think that what we've got so far, before we've got any more data, is that Donald Trump is giving it his usual bluster. We're hearing rumors that it's all very good and there's some heads of terms in place and all of this kind of stuff. But I don't know. I'm usually quite skeptical whenever there's pre-announcements about an announcement, because usually that is greater than whatever the announcement to come actually is. I don't know if this is a Trump thing because he's under a fair bit of heat. I don't know if this also suits Starmer for similar reasons, having just taken a pounding in the local elections. But ultimately, if it's to do with steel and whatever, I don't know really what real impact that has in terms of the actual numbers. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I think my thoughts are similar because nothing has actually happened, has it? Because he's frozen everything for 90 days. I think it is it's an interesting one because you could see a world where actually just quietly everything just rolls back and there are no tariffs apart from maybe with the Chinese. And if that's the case, then I'm not exactly sure what the benefit of this particular deal is going to be. And bear in mind that if you recall, the UK was got off quite lightly in the initial big grand announcement that he made as well, right? And then a day later, that benefit by the UK getting off lightly basically went away because everyone else was in the same boat as well. So I do agree with you. I wonder what this actually means. The one thing, though, that the US, if it achieves it, has pulled a bit of a blinder on, is you've got all these big tech firms, haven't you? Facebook, Meta, Amazon, Google, all these different tech platforms that, frankly, we spend billions upon billions on in this country, in the UK. And historically, they were very difficult to tax because they were set up either in Ireland or somewhere else where and they just shifted the profit centers there, and this became effectively a cost. And so it was very difficult to tax them in the UK until the UK then imposed this new 2% tax on digital services. But if that then now gets cut, I actually think that's a bit of a win for Donald Trump.
Yeah, possibly. I mean, it's always six of one, half a dozen of the other. I think with these things, there's always things in the background that we aren't necessarily privy to. When is the digital services stuff coming in? Was that coming in soon? I don't remember that being in the imminent future. Was it?
Let me Google it. Digital services tax from April 2020. So I think it's already in place. It's a 2% tax. Yeah, on the revenues of search engines, social media, and something else. Social media and online marketplaces. So there we go.
Yeah, but yeah, I mean, I'd love to hear how much is actually being collected from the likes of Google and so on.
Yeah, I suspect it's very little, and I suspect this is classic, British politics where, it's all a lot of symbolism but without actually much substance, and even that's now getting rolled back because of tariffs, where we're going to probably get a worse deal. So that's tariffs. And fun fact, are we still seeing? Let me see. Let me show you, Mr. Zefman. So he did PPE at Brasenose. Fun fact. Yeah. So he was in the year below me, and look, we are now. How far have we fallen? Where we are now talking about breaking news that people below us are breaking. Oh dear.
I've done that degree.
I know.
Okay, Mr. Patel, we are now going to be turning to the main news of the day. Your lot, India, actually my ancestors' lot as well, have attacked my lot, which is Pakistan. And there's been a lot of tensions in the Indo-Pak region as a result. Two nuclear powers facing off against each other. And we have none other than Mr. Uzair Ali, who is our resident Pakistan expert, who has been imported from Pakistan. He's evaded the Trump tariffs. He's here with us. He is an investment expert as well. He heads up our VC arm. Uzair, it gives me great pleasure to welcome you to this very, very elite group of three people.
Likewise, Ibrahim Mohsin, and my ancestors are also from Mohsin's lot, India. So, yeah.
So Uzair, I want to hear a lot about how the markets have been doing, the water treaty, the funding. But first, I want to start with these aeroplanes. So apparently, Uzair has been telling me, Mohsin, that the Indians have splashed out and bought these really top of the range like fighter jets from France, these Rafale fighter jets. And Pakistan, on the other hand, has bought them from China. So quite like budget, discount kind of Chinese fighter jets. But the Pakistani fighter jets have absolutely marmalized the Indian ones apparently, and that's caused. Uzair, over to you. What's it caused?
So just to set the context, India just signed a deal worth 7 billion on Monday for more of these jets, and these jets were basically like top of the line. No, there hasn't been like a track record of Pakistan ever downing one of these. But when the strike happened, like on May 7th, so Pakistan has claimed that it's sort of shot down 7 Indian jets, and one of those was basically the news was murmuring that it's a Rafale jet, but nobody could confirm this. But then yesterday night, CNN got this confirmed from from a French official who said that yes, indeed, a Rafale jet has been downed by the Pakistani Air Force. Now, the Pakistanis are using Chinese aircrafts. So what's happening is that Rafale was owned by Dassault. Dassault stock went down very fast, while the Chinese one, Chengdu, that's up 40% in 2 days. And it's basically that it's going to be a big, let's say, an autopsy that's going to go on to this. And it leads to like a complete reevaluation of the capabilities that India thinks that Pakistan has, and likewise, the Rafale guys will need to introspect and see how did the Chinese plane made this happen. Obviously, India is not admitting this because admitting this means that you're also admitting that you had no idea what the capability on the other side is. So we'll never know, but we know for sure a Rafale jet went down.
So the conclusion is the Chinese first beat up Elon Musk with BYD, build your dream, better car for cheaper. Then they did DeepSeek, which is marmalized ChatGPT, better LLMs for cheaper. And now they've gone into aeroplanes, and it's better aeroplanes for cheaper. And I mean, that is quite a trend, isn't it? I wanted to ask you, like, what is this, like, the wider implication of the relationship with China amidst all this? Because surely the relationship with China is critical in this whole interaction.
So China and Pakistan, they basically like bond together and have been like this for decades now. And the reason is that India now more so that India is emerging as a new frontier economy, like a new developed or like a rising economy. It's also executing on the China plus one power, and clearly the US has kind of leaned more towards India over the last decade. Pakistan is basically very close to China because of that. Like China and Pakistan work together to rein in India when it's kind of required, and that I think that is the reason for their synergy over the last. Also, like there's some disputed regions that India has with China. Pakistan has a similar scenario with Kashmir. And yeah, it kind of goes back to that very strategic alliance that both of these countries have.
Uzair, what's this done to markets and trade? You've got these two nuclear powers facing off against each other. Has there been a huge amount of turmoil within the countries economically? And what does this mean for international economies as well?
Correct. So if I were to break this down into both short term and long term, so in the short term, obviously Pakistan's more vulnerable. The stock market tanked yesterday, down like 6,000 points because of the fact that capital is much more likely to flight in Pakistan. The currency is at a risk in such situations. It also has like a very fragile balance of payment situation. It's in an IMF program. They're in a $7 billion facility. They have one tranche or a review on May 9th. So there's a lot of fragility in the Pakistani economy. That's not the case in the short term on the Indian side. The Indian side has been more robust. Even if we sort of look at past incidents, for example, their skirmish with China in 2000 or the 2019 Pulwama/Balakot strikes, the Indian stock market barely sort of like went down and went up, which kind of shows that the global investors don't view such conflicts as very contained. They're not pricing in the fact that this is going to be a long-term conflict. Hence, it does not affect India's long-term growth story. In the longer term, though, if this escalates, this does more harm to India because it has a lot more to lose. So just to set the context, India is executing, it's one of the fastest growing economies in the world, growing at 6.5%. It's executing the China plus one strategy. It's been at the forefront of like technology, solar, Apple is sort of setting up a set up manufacturing over there. So all of this, if this sustains for a while, then that's got a you need to price in that risk, right? Like you need to price in the supply chain risk, you need to price in the geopolitical risk, and then it sort of does starts to do more harm to India than Pakistan. But in the near term, Pakistan is much more vulnerable economically.
Makes sense. Mohsin, you've been very quiet. I mean, your guys have blocked our water. I mean, that's outrageous in my view.
Has that actually happened? Like, I think there's all this talk, but you can't. Like, it's not physically possible, is it? Was there?
Yeah, so it's not possible physically at the moment to do that. But what they've essentially done by saying that we're holding this treaty in abeyance is that they used to share data. So you know how much water they're allowing to let go. That sort of that data would then be used to on the Pakistan side to figure out, okay, how much water is coming in or not. So there's no way to control the water for the next couple of years indefinitely, but you can basically control some flow in which you can, cause flash floods, or if there is like a dry season, you can withhold some water, cause some pain. And because Pakistan is particularly vulnerable on that end, because agriculture is one of the biggest sectors, like employs 20% of the folks over there in Pakistan. This leaves Pakistan very vulnerable. Like this has happened, I think, 3 years ago now, in which unintentionally India, sort of to avoid floods in India, let out water, and that caused like mass flash floods in Pakistan, in Sindh and Punjab. So that's the sort of dynamic at this. But in the very near term, they just don't have the logistics to store such water. That would need to be built out, and that should take like 7, 10, 15 years.
Uzair, what I wanted to know was why is this kicked off now? Because obviously, the question of Kashmir. I mean, I'm not kind of like very hot on Indo-Pak relations, but the question of Kashmir has always been there, certainly in my lifetime. But why now? What's triggered it?
So it depends on from whose lens are you looking at, the lens from my people or like your people. So if you look at it from the lens of Pakistan, right? So Pakistan has a very like the army is a very core in the political economy of Pakistan, and it has always been so since independence. And the main reason why it's very relevant in Pakistani politics and holds on to such power is because it plays the security card. It sort of plays that card that that we have a dispute with India over Kashmir, hence security is important, hence it gets a very big chunk of the budget. On top of that, sort of it runs a huge economic empire in Pakistan. So you could argue, like on the Pakistani side, that if the moment the Kashmir issue kind of gets resolved, there's no incentive for that security outlay, and the importance of the armed forces comes down drastically. Then there's a counterpoint to this, that why Pakistan. So that could be like one reason that it's always remained relevant, which is why most of the peace talks have not worked out. Then on the Indian side, right? Like if you go over there, so if you look at Kashmir, the Indian administered side, it's basically one of the most highly militarized zones in the world. There's a populace over there that they sort of revoked Article 370 in 2019. That sort of took their autonomy. They haven't had like a provincial government since then. So there is genuine frustration amongst the populace over there. Now, not justifying anything that what they did, but the sentiment is there, which anybody could capitalize on to carry out what happened with the tourists. Now, in Modi's perspective, BJP is a nationalist a party, very anti-Muslim, and anytime basically they sort of need to appease the public, Pakistan always becomes top of, or anti-Muslim always becomes top of agenda for Modi. And last time around, it happened like just before the elections. This time around, that's not the case, but there are these two theories as to why this always remains relevant in New Delhi. It's always that anti-Muslim BJP rhetoric, the ideology in Pakistan. It's the military that keeps it relevant. That's my view.
Uzair, what is the implication? Because before all of this kicked off, Pakistan is not in a good financial place. It's not in a good political place either, right? Where you've got Imran Khan, who's been locked up, and you have the military, which is, it's the popularity of the military as all-time lows, and economically, it's in doldrums. What are the funding implications for all this for Pakistan? And are there, what's going to happen basically to the people and their economy?
Correct. And so, like all the reasons that you just mentioned, that's the point. That's the counterpoint to why Pakistan did not do it. The reason is that we have all of these problems. You have like problems in Balochistan, the northern province, economically fragile. Why why would we open up another front at this point in time? That said, the economic implications, we have a reference point if we look at what happened like last time around. So last time around, when this sort of happened, there are two levers that the global community can exercise in Pakistan. One is the IMF, the second is the FATF. The IMF is basically Pakistan is beholden to that fund. They need to, and there's a lot of geopolitical element to it. It always sort of comes, the tranche always comes through with the blessings of the US. And in India always, would try to influence that tranche of money. The second thing where India is sort of very actively working on is getting Pakistan back onto the FATF grey list. So Pakistan was on the FATF grey list, I think, starting from 2019 to 2022, and it was very painful. Like that just makes investment within the country very punitive and very cumbersome for investors. Like one research suggests that over that period we lost like around $38 billion in investment because you're on the FATF grey list. And Pakistan had made moves to sort of appease these multilateral agencies. For example, the Lashkar-e-Taiba founder, he's still in jail. That's part of the FATF requirements, countering terrorism, etc. So Pakistan was sort of complying, which is again a point that why would Pakistan go down this route again when it's sort of already backtracked on this route and already gotten off the list of FATF list. So now India has sort of reopened that FATF front, and they're saying that Pakistan needs to be put on that grey list again. So that's like the near-term implications for Pakistan economically. So yeah, like I said, in the short term, it's Pakistan that kind of is way more vulnerable. But if you sort of stretch it out, if this stretches out longer, India has way more to lose as compared to Pakistan.
Yeah, and I guess that makes sense, right? Because India, if it's seeing all of this foreign direct investment coming in, with China becoming less relevant from a manufacturer perspective, I suspect people are going to be coming to India more and more, right, to do that. And that's probably now significantly, well, I don't know, it's probably isn't significantly under threat yet, but it could be.
So yeah, like not yet. And right now, because of the history of how these conflicts have played out, most global investors are sort of like treating this as a contained event. And there's a nuclear deterrence also, so they don't foresee this being like a full-scale war. But if they were to stretch out, because for whatever reason, then India has like this risk sort of gets priced in. This China plus strategy comes under question. The FDI sort of comes under question. The supply chain comes under question. It's sort of much more damaging to India in the long run. And India is on a very good trajectory in terms of growth. This would just basically jeopardize that.
Yeah. Uzair, it's been an absolute pleasure having you. Thank you for shedding light on this crisis. And the big question is that we leave you with: India versus Pakistan in the cricket. Who's stronger right now?
It's clearly India at the moment.
I know
no
it is.
about that.
On the other hand, the Chinese Jets.
Yeah,
got
maybe
one over.
we should get like a Chinese cricket team. Why not?
That's it. All right, brilliant, Uzair. It's been a pleasure.
Bye, Mohsin. Assalamu alaikum.
All right, let's talk about some more positive news, possibly. Yeah, so the Bank of England is expected to announce a rate cut today, with the rates falling from 4.5% to 4.25%. And I mean, I'd love to hear your take on this. I expect the immediate benefits. I mean, there's basically two things, right? If interest rates go down, then mortgage rates go down, and buying a house becomes cheaper, including Islamic mortgages. And the second thing that happens is savings accounts. The rates there start falling as well. I mean, it's not a dramatic cut. It's gone from 4.5 to 4.25. What do you make of this, and why does the ordinary man care about this, Mohsin?
So I think with interest rates, there's always a discussion, like, the everyday man on the street or the everyday woman on the street might be like, why is everyone obsessed with interest rates? And it's because interest rates are a tool, right, that we have, or the Bank of England has, in order to maintain its target inflation rate of 2%. So what that means is that when the Bank of England folks meet, they're saying, what should we do with interest rates? Do we need to stimulate the economy? And actually, what a cut in interest rates means, I mean, what it's actually saying is that the data that they're seeing is probably not that good, right? So they need to increase spending. They want to discourage people saving and hoarding in their bank accounts, and they want to start putting stimulus in the economy so that people start doing more spending. So what I'm kind of interested in is, what are we seeing on the ground in the UK in terms of employment numbers, in terms of spending numbers, in terms of overall sentiment? And I suspect that data is not looking too clever. Hence, the Bank of England are thinking, actually, what we need to do is we need to decrease the interest rates so that we can, achieve our target.
Yeah, great point. And let's actually, because I've just been Googling this, this is what the Bank of England rate used to be, if you recall, up to 2008, 2009 financial crisis. And then we had a big drop, basically to 0.5, like 0.25, like absolutely nothing for large periods of this. And then we had COVID, which hit roughly then, and it basically fell to nothing effectively. And that then continued. And then we had inflation, and it shot up through the roof up to where it is, roughly there today. And then it started to come down. And then you compare that to, let me share the other screen. Stop screen. You compare that to the inflation rate, and you see a very interesting parallel here. You can see inflation has gone absolutely through the roof because they printed all that money, and then they had to hike up the interest rates just to start absorbing it all up. And now that inflation has come down because basically, everything is slowing down in the economy, you now have this issue where they need to basically stimulate growth at the same time that interest rates are quite high. So yeah, I think it's all very much expected, but I don't think it makes it. I think we're in a very tricky spot really, because our growth has slowed, but it's very hard for the government to drop the inflation, drop the interest, because normally you would try and drop the interest rate to try and get things going again. But here they need to keep a close eye on the inflation as well. So we've got this potential stagflation scenario kicking off. I think this has gone under the surface, but I actually think this is actually really vital news, and this is what a judge has imposed on Apple. And Apple, for those of you who don't know, the apps to us, they're perfectly fine. They appear all, good and dandy. But actually in the background, Apple charges 30% as basically a toll on any fees and profits that are made by apps on the Apple iStore and the App Store. And so as a result of that, they are seen as a monopoly. because people, and they can charge that because no one else, there's the App Store and there's Android, right? So if you want to be on Apple, you kind of need to pay them that. And so what the US judge imposed on Apple and then really doubled down on it today, or yesterday, sorry, was to say, earlier this week, it was to say that Apple absolutely can't be charging 30% as a haircut on payments that go through it. So for example, you've got an app like, like Muz, for example, right? Islamic matrimonial app. If you are going to pay Muz anything through Apple, they would take a 30% haircut. And by the way, this was a court judgment from a few years ago, and then Apple essentially circumvented that and said that, look, if you are going to be charging, if you're going to be taking payments not through our payment rails, but you're going to be taking payments through some other third-party payment rails, then that's fine. We're going to allow you to do that now because the judges have said we need to allow that, but we're going to charge 27% on it, which is effectively a backdoor way of keeping the same monopoly. Because why would you go to a third party and they put scare screens on the app as well, where if you're going to a third party, it makes it much less likely that you would actually go ahead with it because they put all these scare tactics in. And so today, the judge, or earlier this week, the judge said, you can't do that anymore. You can't restrict the developers. You can't exclude certain things. You can't restrict the use of dynamic links. You can't put scare screens on, essentially saying, that's it, right? And you now need to effectively allow all apps on the iStore to be able to take payments elsewhere. And so immediately, I think we're going to see a big drop in the profits for Apple. They are appealing this, but that's the story. Mr. Patel, what do you make of this?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a great decision because it was widely known to be just your classic rent-seeking behavior, right? And it wasn't even justified. That's the thing. So this is not, by the way, this is just to clarify, this is not Apple charging developers for putting apps on their app store. This is Apple somehow reaching over and saying, "Oh, you're making money on your app. Now we're going." It's like the equivalent of me booking my Umrah with Bashir's
the internet, right? Google Chrome.
Yeah. Well, let's take an example people understand. So let's say I book my Umrah with Bashir's Umrah group, and then once I'm in Makkah, I buy a jubba from the stall. So now Bashir's Umrah group is going to charge the jubba guy and say, that's 30% of your money, please, which is just complete overreach and completely crazy. So I think this is widely accepted to be a good thing. Apple, as you said, this judgment had already come in, and they had made the call. Tim Cook, or as Donald Trump knows him as Tim Apple, has decided to circumvent this, apparently by listening to his CFO and trying to just basically fudge their way through this, and now it's kind of come through that this is absolutely not going to happen. So you know what? Good. This is absolute shocking behavior in the first place, in my opinion.
Now the big question is, before we go to our next segment, is would you pay for Donald Trump's inauguration if you were a big US CEO?
Would I pay for it, as in for it to happen?
Because that's what they did, didn't they? They all paid for Donald Trump's inauguration. They bought Melania Trump's Netflix series, Amazon series was done because of that. And then they've been buying Trump coin, which is effectively apparently a backdoor way of just paying Donald Trump.
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't, but I'm a very principled man, as you know.
MashaAllah, MashaAllah. Last but not least, we have a very interesting story. Disney are opening up a theme park in the Middle East. It looks quite nice, that, to be fair. And it's going to be in Abu Dhabi, which is your neck of the woods. More your neck of the woods than my neck of the woods anyway. And it's going to be on the Yas Island in Abu Dhabi, and it's going to be a collaboration between Walt Disney and a local entertainment and leisure company called Miral. have you heard about this, Mohsin? What's the vibe like in the UAE about this?
I have heard about it. So it's a really interesting story. Obviously, Disney has only got a couple of others, I think, right, in Paris and in the US. So this is big news. This is like really, really big news, because for Disney to go and open up somewhere, and for that somewhere to be the Middle East, is very, very major. So I think it's definitely not something to be underestimated. It is going to take some years for it to actually come to fruition. It'll probably be about 6-7 years for it to actually get fully operational. It might even be longer than that. But the consequences of it are kind of beginning now. Yas Island, I don't know if you've ever been there, but many of the viewers will know. So in Abu Dhabi, there's an area called Yas Island where there's already a few theme parks, and it's really nice. We've done like a family trip there. There's loads of decent hotels there, and they often sell packages like, if you stay 2 nights, you get access to 2 theme parks, and it's very much that kind of vibe. So there's already a few theme parks there. There's the Yas Water World, there's a Warner Bros, there's a Ferrari World. So there's already a few kind of iconic theme parks there already. But certainly, Disney takes the absolute top spot when it comes to pedigree of theme parks, and this is going to be a massive pull towards Abu Dhabi. I think there's 2 big things that I kind of want to highlight in terms of economy and finances. The first is that when it comes to real estate around there, particularly the kind of Yas Island area, you can certainly expect that in the long term prices will be going up there, and part of the reason for that is the second thing that I'm going to come on to, which is that, as I said, this being in the Middle East is actually going to be a massive pull for a whole new segment of consumers who probably wouldn't have gone to a Disneyland before. So there'll be a lot of, for example, Muslim families who probably, they might have wanted to go to a Disneyland, but they probably didn't feel comfortable going to the US or to Europe, and now it's in their back door in the Middle East, and possibly even folks from like the UK who now see going to Disneyland as a viable thing. Now, there is a separate thread here, and I'm sure we're going to get this in the comments, which is around Disney as a company and it being on the list, etc. Whether we kind of want to go into that or not, I don't know. But consumers may take an ethical stance on this and say, actually, no, this is not something that we want to visit. It's not something we want to do. But ultimately, whether or not that affects the overall viability of the project, I don't know. Clearly, they've made their assessment and they think that it's going to be a goer.
Wonderful. Well, folks, that's pretty much it for today. If there are specific things that you'd like us to cover, then please do let us know in the comments below. If you'd like to see our resident Pakistani expert, Mr. Uzair Ali, come back with his analysis, then please do let us know as well, and we'll bring him over once more. Until next time, Assalamu alaikum.